This show is proudly brought to you by the #Me Network. Access granted.
Cool. Kia ora and welcome. Thanks so much for tuning in to episode 25 of Access Granted, our weekly Kiwi Tech and Media podcast. I'm Mike and my background is information wrangling, connecting people and getting things done.
And I'm Raj. My background's in film, design, technology, media. You're here because you're a Kiwi that's either involved in tech or has a passion for tech and media in New Zealand.
Episode 25. Later on we catch up with the cool side of Datacom. But first, our focus for the week.
The focus for this week is something you want to talk about.
Very briefly, because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah,
because we've got a very large Datacom interview. So I've got a very quick one, which is I saw in a report that I was reading today that it said ITS systems. Now, ITS being Intelligent Transport Systems. And it reminded me of when the collaboration was the king of the buzzwords.
Oh, yeah.
The good old days. Is it?
Yeah,
No,
there's still a
I
bit
think
of collaboration going on, or talking about it, like in a social sense, getting social apps in your business to
Social's the new one, mate.
increase the collaboration.
What a pile of bollocks. The collaboration part, well, the people would say, we want collaboration. And it was all about the tools. Like, you get a collaboration tool, like pick your favourite, whatever it is,
Yeah.
Google Docs, obviously that's our favourite, because that's what we're using. And it's like, well, the tool itself will do it. We've got collaboration tools.
So
We've
right?
installed collaboration,
Yeah.
or we've upgraded collaboration.
Still no one knows what's going on because no one's actually been told how to use it or
Exactly.
what to do with it,
It's
or
like
even have a go.
It's not even about the tools; it's about how you work. So, I think nearly all of IT is sold on the fact that it's a computer system, and that you can then install something that the tools might support.
Yeah, but that's why they call it a solution. But I think that's a misnomer, right? Because they go, from a procurement point of view, oh, cool, I've just bought this solution, air quotes, and then everything's going to be fine. But once they've got it out of the box and loaded the CD and hit execute, what happens then?
Yes.
There's nothing after that.
That's what
they
it
just
is.
bought a box of product and what happened? You might as well just go and buy some cereal. I don't know.
And we are no different now than we ever were. We don't install it necessarily anymore, but now we have access to cloud solutions.
Yes.
What a pile of crap. And it's annoying me, and I haven't had enough beers for it to be
Explain
less
why,
angry.
what it's annoying you about. That wasn't good English. Why? How is it annoying you there, Mike?
I think it's because it's still the old snake oil software salesman telling you or trying to convince you that their product will be the panacea of all your ills within your company.
Just take this pill once a day.
That's right. Take the red pill, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And they don't even go out to solve problems of the world with software. Most software vendors don't. They see a particular pain, think, I can make money out of that, get some software written, and then they sell it as the panacea of everything. And they inflate the tool set. It's a little bit like, I remember a friend of mine years ago said IT departments should be treated like janitor departments. Just do your job. And no one ever says, I've got a seat solution for you.
Ooh.
Or a leaning up, standing up solution for you. It's like, it's a table, mate. Just tell me it's a table. Go away. If it's broken, it's wobbly, I'll call you. Otherwise, piss off. I'll do the business. And the moment we get to that, the better. Now, we've got to stop because we've got a very big interview coming up.
Yes.
So, that's just my wee rant. That possibly should have been in the rant episode, which we're doing one next week, is that right?
We'll do another one, yeah.
We're going to do another one.
I think there's plenty more material where that came from.
The moan zone, as my mate Dave called it.
Zone.
He said, Mauricio's in the moan zone.
I kind of like that.
That's quite a good name, isn't it? We might change it. System error to moan zone.
Get in the zone.
Yeah. So that was a very quick...
Just a quick snippet of a possible rant that's coming in the future.
Possibly what comes out of that little rant is if you're making software, if you are coders and you have a company of salespeople, if you ever hear your people talk about a solution, stab them in the face. Is that fair enough?
not for the person, but yeah, other than that.
I think they should be taught a lesson.
So no solutions. Well, what are they supposed to sell then?
We have software.
We have software that does a little thing.
And it does stuff.
It does a little bit
has
of this.
features.
Yeah.
No,
it may help you out.
No, you're meant to sell them value.
Value.
Yeah, it's not... Someone said, don't tell me you've got a solution, I'll tell you if it's a solution or not. I've got the problem, and I'll tell you if it's a solution.
Yeah.
You have tools.
Here's an idea.
Yes.
Here's an idea.
So there you go. Don't tell me you've got a collaboration solution based in the cloud. Tell me what it does, and I'll tell you if it's a solution.
It's a business cloud solution service solution.
Right.
Just throw enough of those buzzwords at somebody, they'll just buy it, won't they?
Let's crack into the events, mate.
Anyway, what have we got for the events?
You've got an event. This is where we try and get the people out of their little pods and get out and meet other people who live in pods.
Breathe some oxygen and look outside. And look, there's stars outside. I looked at this one called Connect Smart, Building a Safer Online New Zealand, which is there's a little group set up by the National Cyber Policy Office, which sounds quite interesting. Yeah, it sounds governmenty, but they've got their own site. Yeah, it's what is it? IITP NZ. So they went straight for the .nz. Interesting, eh?
IITP. That's the information.
But that's where the event details are.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
IITP. So that's the information. That's the old Computer Society.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're running this thing in November the 26th. So all the details are on there. But their focus is on becoming a global leader in cybersecurity, committed to maintaining open and trusted internet. So that'll be interesting.
That would be an interesting, particularly in the environment that we currently live in.
That's right.
We'll see how that goes. My one is a weird one, Christmas do's. Now, this is not I don't have an event, but I know that everyone's listening. Both listeners will be going to a Christmas do.
Probably will, yeah.
And my challenge is to say, look, there's consultants out there are small startups, 2 or 3 people who live in a garage and are trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
Why not, if you work in a larger organisation that's going to have a Christmas do, why don't you extend it and open it up? Now, not to the whole world, but why don't you put out there and say, we've got space for 5 people, come to our Christmas do, and they can pay, whatever else, $5 a head or whatever people do, and then just extend it to those that don't have Christmas do's, especially the startups. The startups sort of hang around, and they might be in incubator type places and all that, but hey, look, Xero and Ministry of blah blah, and all those insurance companies up in Auckland, and all those building people down in Christchurch, and all those large
bankers in Auckland.
I
said bankers.
Yeah. Your Christmas dues are going to happen. They're going to be big and fun. Having 5 other people come along that startups. What do you get out of it? You get to have a conversation with some funky people who are doing weird things.
Yeah.
And if you're in Westpac, I know that they have a particular view on engaging with small, agile companies, because they know that that's the way it's going to be. Don't let Westpac take it all.
Yeah.
Just open it up, host somebody, and have a Christmas do. So that's the event.
Yeah.
It's your Christmas do, but you're going to invite someone else.
Kind of like the idea of some of the little guys getting together to make a bigger event.
They could do that.
So I remember when we were starting out, it'd be kind of nice to collaborate with a couple of others. Everyone puts in a pool of money. You can have a better, not necessarily better, but a more interesting, or you can afford to do a bit more as a group, bigger group, than just you guys on your own in your garage.
There you go.
Great idea.
So, very briefly, we've talked about collaboration solutions. Maybe that's what they need, these people, collaboration
Some
solutions.
sort of website they can go to where they can book each other's time for a Christmas do.
It's called a calendar,
That's
mate.
a solution. I've got a solution for you, Mike.
Yeah.
Let me just talk to you about it offline.
So, Access Granted Podcast, hashtag is where we're going to find it. Now we're going to crack into our interview.
This
we're
week
rushing. I know we're rushing.
We're rushing because there's a detailed interview, but it's a podcast. They can always pause it, play it in slow-mo, whatever they like. Remember?
Hint number 2, of course, is times 2.
Times 2 it, speed it.
Times 2 it and get through us.
Get past all the jibber-jabber and then straight into the nice interview.
Absolutely.
Well, this week we spoke to Bill Moses and Brad Murray at Datacom, where they're tapping into the startup community to help them innovate and grow, which is quite an interesting way of looking at it from a big corporate perspective. Yeah. And here we are. Well, welcome, listeners. We're at Datacom today.
So we're sitting in one of the Datacom meeting rooms here in the South Tower in Wellington, and we've got Bill Moses and Brad Murray. Thank you very much. This was an introduction from Owen Evans.
Owen Evans, yep.
So we'll start with the question we host at, and then I'm going to flick left and right so you're both going to answer these. What makes you happy?
We're working in technology, working in new technology, mucking around with some new things, but things actually, there's two reasons. Things that make value for customers or people that are actually going to use the technology, and things that the team, I mean, I'm a manager, but things that the team are actually going to enjoy, things they're going to have fun with, think they're going to learn something out of it.
Fantastic. What makes you happy, Brad?
It's quite similar, really. Being able to take someone's problem and actually put together a solution for it, obviously using tech, but being able to do it in ways that the people on the team actually have fun, enjoy using it. We try to do things a little bit smaller, a little bit faster, a little bit more interesting.
Fantastic. So you mentioned the team. So what's the team? You've got to focus. No, it's you're the manager of the team. Is that right, Bill?
Yeah.
So what is the team? Give us what's your focus?
It's got 15 people at the moment. We're focusing on Ruby on Rails applications. They could be products. They could be just DevOps infrastructure tools.
Yep.
And the other half of the team is mobile. So we're doing iOS, Android, cross-platform on Xamarin, across Wellington, Hamilton and Auckland, jointly with another team up there. So it's we'll call it a national capability across Datacom.
Cool. And is that something, particularly the approach and the mobile, is that new to telecom? I keep saying telecom. Sorry, we're in the ex-telecom, and it's not even telecom anymore.
No, it looks way nicer.
I shall die before I shall call it
No,
Spark.
I will slap you next time.
No, excellent. That's fair enough.
Do that, it'd be good.
Well, the answer is yes, this is new to telecom. But is this a new approach, the faster, I wouldn't say leaner, you didn't say it, and the mobile for Datacom?
No, you can say lean.
Okay.
Taking the lean startup approach, especially with this team. So how can we come up with innovative approaches to solving business problems using the lean startup model? So might come up with a solution using lean canvas, for example, and then just throw it out to the team and say, let's do some brainstorming on a solution for this problem that the customer has.
Oh, fantastic! And from a Datacom point of view, are you seen as a skunkworks, or are you seen as this is the way of the future and this is the way we want to go, or how does it fit within the wider beast?
We operate quite independently, I think. All the Datacom units operate quite independently, and since most of them in the software space are sort of tuned to delivering large projects,
Yep.
They're frequently working on core systems and things for customers. So you're probably more likely to be in sort of millions of dollars type projects, and these are things which get carefully worked on over a large number of years. We do a little bit of skunkworksy type stuff, in particular for infrastructure type things.
Yep.
It's a big company. It manages a lot of servers for a lot of government and commercial clients, and we're trying to bring a lot more automation into that.
Ah, cool.
And the technologies that we work with, things like Ruby, Go, these are all sort of the key languages that people are doing the automation stuff in these days.
Yeah.
And because we run a number of our own servers rather than handing them off to another team, we also bring a lot of that tooling in from sort of the startup world.
Yeah.
Open source stuff that frequently comes out of America, and put it in behind our own applications and environments, and use it in still a reasonably small manner. But once we can get some value out of it, we can sometimes take that out to other teams which are doing a lot more. And that's been one of the key areas at the moment, because most teams have, there's this unit, it does work for this client. A particular government ministry, probably there's a team that just does their stuff.
Yeah.
So they're all focused specifically on what a particular client needs. And our team is a little bit more mercenary. We work for whoever needs something, and because we're quite good at doing the small projects, we have a lot of scope to sort of innovate and experiment with things.
Yeah.
We can pick something out there, try it on a particular project, decide whether we think it's useful, and we haven't committed massive resources. It's, experimenting with a technology might cost us half a week and decide whether it's useful, whereas trying to do that on a really big project, people want to make a lot of the choices up front. So we can prove and experiment a lot quicker, and we do a lot of projects.
Yeah.
Some teams might do work on 1 or 2 applications a year. We're probably more like 20 to 40 of much, much smaller ones, and many of them going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So if we find one thing's useful, we can then introduce it into everything else.
So is your natural affinity then sort of towards the startup companies and the smaller, less commercial companies, more commercial companies out there? Is that where you sort of feel that's where your peers are, and you're inside the belly of the beast, or is it no? You definitely, you got the Datacom wrap around you, and you're here for them to not change the way they do stuff. That's unfair, but educate. I don't know what the word is. You know what I'm trying to say?
I mean, you did some research on Datacom before you came here. Apart from getting the name right, you got everything else right. Like it's a large company. We're made up of a large number of smaller business units or groups, and each of those business units has a responsibility for a client or a technology. So what we've found is that the larger the organisation gets, we've discovered a niche for supplying innovation services to business units inside Datacom in support of their clients.
Yeah.
So we might be able to come up very quickly with an innovative solution that actually saves customer time, saves customer money on behalf of another business unit, and it could be one of our infrastructure teams, one of our business services teams, another one of our software teams. It doesn't seem to matter. It's common across the board. So just taking that lean sort of startup approach inside Datacom at the moment has turned out to be quite popular.
Yeah, that's all the best of both worlds, isn't it? Yeah, it's fantastic. This is a hard question to answer because I'm about to ask you about someone else's view of you. How are you seen? I remember there was a similar team that I was working with in Fairfax in Australia, and they were certainly seen as those mavericks and given a hard time, really, by the normal IT or the establishment.
Right.
It was a tough time for them. Now, a number of years later, it's like they've proved their worth. Is that a similar experience you're having, or is it very much?
No.
We want you to come and help us.
No, I don't think the team is all that visible. It's not as if we have a mandate to go out there and do whatever the hell we like.
Yeah.
So we go out there and we'll see an opportunity or see a problem, and we'll go and talk to the people that are responsible for that area and see whether or not we can actually help them. So rather than you must go to this business unit and talk to them about innovation because no one else can, within Datacom everybody has the mandate to do innovation. We don't have the monopoly on that, but we're trying to create value. So we want people to come to us because they've seen the value that we've provided to other business units or other customers. Yeah. So awesome. we don't feel as though we have any special mandate or monopoly on the.
And it's not the funnel has to come through you because you say
not. We're going out there. We're trying to sell our services internally as much as we are to external customers as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But there's also a realization that we're not trying to change the way other teams do things because we're doing different sorts of projects. Our sort of processes work for us. But because of that size, we're able to eliminate a lot of layers, frequently working without BAs, without testers, without dedicated ops people, expecting developers to learn how to do that entire thing. But that only works because we've got seniors that know how to do the entire thing and can teach it. And it also only works when you scale down the projects to be small enough. Like, you wouldn't try and run a $5 million a year project the exact same way we run our $50,000 projects.
Yeah.
It would just be idiotic.
Yeah.
We can strip everything possible out of the process. And sometimes we build applications and it's someone sits down with us in a room and says, I've got a problem, I need this, this and this. And we start sketching some ideas on a whiteboard, take a couple of pictures, think we've got an understanding of what they want, and then tell them we'll come back next week, we'll show you something. And that's our design process. Maybe after that, a few people stand around a table and sketch things out on some A3 paper or whatever. But we work from scribbles rather than a great big huge design document that has to be approved by a client. Because that would be the appropriate thing for a large project. You have to have a lot of clarity. When we're only committing maybe one or two people to actually working on something, and we've got clients coming in and having a look at it on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, it's possible for us to do that.
It's a bit more flexible, right? It's a bit more flexible work environment.
Sounds all terribly modern.
Yeah. Sounds interesting, yeah.
How's it going with clients? What an open-ended question. I don't want to answer that one. Do you get particular types of clients coming to you now because they go,
you fit, not just because of the size, but the approach?
We can go back a little bit further to how the team was started, if you like.
Oh, please do, yeah.
So I tweeted that we were looking for Rails developers. I got a smart-ass comment back to say it was the jump the shark moment for Rails in Wellington. And I hired a couple of really smart graduates out of the Summer of Tech program.
Awesome.
I got Nick Wakeland to come in and train them up. Had a chat to Cos about how we would mix a Rails team from inside a corporate like Datacom in with the startup community in Wellington, and he had some really good ideas about just making sure you feed back into the community and not just take away from it. And then I needed a lead, and I have to say I was lucky to find Brad, because he comes out of corporate environment and he's been in the startup community as well, so he knows both worlds, and he's able to use the language of both worlds, startup and corporate. And that's basically how the team was started. Now, as far as customers are concerned, like I say, we're mainly focusing around supporting teams internally within Datacom at the moment. But in saying that, Summer of Tech was, I would say, that would be our first external customer, and we're supporting them and their website, just building on some of the good work that AbleTech's done in the past and previous developers have done in building up that website. So I think we've got a good offering with Summer of Tech now, and I know that John's really happy with what Brad and Owen have done on that website.
Definitely.
And we're still hooked in with Summer of Tech, and obviously that's how Owen got in touch with you guys.
Cool. So it came out, so much came out of the Earthquake Rules. It came out, and then it could have died. It could have been a one-off, you're here for this event, or us to get through, and then thank you very much, but that's not who we are. But that didn't happen. By reaching out and saying, this is a way of bridging those gaps, the startup and the corporate, bringing the people in. What was it like? What was it like for them when they said, I keep using the phrase "the belly of the beast"? I shouldn't use that, should I? That's a horrible thing to say. I've used it a lot at the Microsoft conference as well. I really shouldn't do it. Did they see that as an opportunity? And has it gone from this is a different way that Datacom can be perceived outside? Is that a good question?
So the Wellington startup Rails community has given us a way of approaching problems, brainstorming solutions to them. So we've brought that into a business unit within Datacom. So you refer to the beast and how big the organisation is, but the reality is that we're small. We're small business units supporting a client or a technology, right? Ours just happens to be based around Ruby on Rails capability, and being Rails and being built around a lean startup type model, we can approach solutions a lot faster. We can come up with innovative solutions a lot quicker as well. So that's been quite exciting, and that's been built into the culture that Brad and I and Sam, our project manager, have engendered within the team. Perfect. So they know that they can't do without process and procedure. We're still running an agile shop, but they know that they can come up with some ideas. The developers can go and talk to Brad. They can brainstorm some stuff. They can talk freely. There's no serious hierarchy within the team, and we can come up with solutions together. We come forward with brainstorming ideas and workshops and stuff.
Excellent. Where do you see it going? Where do you see the team? I don't mean from projects and successful, but where would you like it to be within Datacom and how it grows? And
we need some key customers first to just help us solidify the base that we've built up. So officially the team has been in operation for 6 months as a standalone business. We're probably 12 months longer than that. So now we just need to build up our own IP and our own value proposition. So Brad's been working a lot with infrastructure teams and building DevOps tools, and that's working out quite well for us. If you want to talk about
so those are the clients, internal clients you're looking for, or I suppose clients are clients as well?
Internal first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still very much focused on the big clients they have to support. When a client has over 1,000 servers, you have to start working out how can you be a bit more efficient in how you're doing it, which is interesting at the moment because the idea that the efficiency is going to come is actually being put into contracts with customers. So we're, as a company, they're committing to improving a lot of this. But then at some point it has to trickle down to the technical people to go, okay, we've just promised that we're going to become twice as efficient. How are we going to do it? What are we going to change? And that's interesting because it's not just a technology question. We can bring in technology to automate things, but there's usually some agreed process with customers that has sort of back and forth and authorization to do particular things, and you can't just automate everything, and there's a bit of a learning and negotiating process of trying to make it better. You know, we want to be able to have things like click a button and have an entire environment come into existence with your application running within a few minutes. But that can be quite tricky, especially if the things weren't built to work that way in the first place. And we've had some big clients come on board that their core business systems have been around for quite a while. So it's not that simple. It's trying to find out what can we take out there and what is inside a particular customer or something we're trying to do, and who has all the right knowledge. Because again, the company's so big, it's really damn hard to find the right key people at sometimes, because it's not sort of top down, it's a lot of networking and trying to understand who knows what, who works on what, and who's interested in changing things. You know, the nature of this many people is you've got some people who are innovators and want to change the things and are early adopters. You've got some people that just want to have clarity on what they do.
Yeah.
And changing it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So trying to find reasons to make that work, or understand what it is they want to see. How do we actually change things? And you know, it's not really a company where you sort of get a top-down directive to say, okay, everyone is now doing this. Most of the change we've been successful in doing has actually been sort of from the bottom-up end, but bottom-up across different teams and pulling different teams together.
Wow.
Involves, it's easier in Wellington, we have craft beer. So there's a lot of,
solves all, yes.
There's a lot of after-hours discussions of like, this thing here, we don't like it. What can we actually do about it?
Yeah.
And we're quite lucky in Wellington because the software teams and the infrastructure teams they're on separate floors, but it's only one floor difference. So it's pretty easy to go down and talk to them and try and understand what we're doing. And because I was doing some stuff in a failed startup prior to Datacom, was used to thinking about, okay, once we build the software, how are we going to run it? And having to learn all of those skills and not having a lot of resources. So having appreciation for the sort of challenges they face.
Yeah.
Because I think our infrastructure and just running things someone has already built is a bigger part of the company than just going and building something new.
Yep. Ooh,
So
new shiny programming language. Let's just change everything to that because it's my fancy.
Yeah. And even if something's a cool technology, you come up with have to make a judgment on, do we build capability in this? Like Rails, it's good for building web applications, but if you need a team of 6 or 8 people in order to be able to have a serious capability where you can do it and support it over a period of time, then that's a reasonable investment. It's not just like a startup can go, okay, we've got 2 founders and they decided we're going to use Clojure, so we just learned Clojure and now we write an app.
That's right.
Which a friend of mine in the Wellington startup community has done. It works really well for them. Which is interesting because we're having a discussion the other day on if you're working with less common or less accepted languages for things, and in enterprise development, Ruby's not considered all that acceptable or mainstream, which we see odd because it works really well for web applications. Plenty of big startups have used it. But you tend to, once you start going out of the mainstream, you tend to start attracting people that might be a step more motivated to learn something new or having to become adaptable. And the other thing is, if you pick languages or technologies that have both strengths and weaknesses, or very visible ones, because I think all languages have strengths and weaknesses, but people like to harp on about the performance of Ruby a lot more. And the reality is most people doing something serious with it understand where it's not good and where it's not the right tool. So you have to go and learn something else, or understand how you fuse things together. Someone said to me recently, all good programmers are polyglot. If they only know one language or one technology, just consider them crap, because their worldview is going to be too limited.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
and shoehorning solutions into something just because that's the one I know. It's that I've got a hammer, therefore the rest of the world is like nails.
Yeah, but then it's a challenge in enterprise development because they try and standardise things so that they can support systems. It's not, you're not going to be. If you're a startup, you tend to have like one or two actual applications a lot of the time, and you're just working continually improving that. Whereas if you're corporate, you tend to have 50 or 100 applications, and you'll either build a new one or make some changes to it, and you'll spin up some change, and then you'll stop again once it's done. There are certain systems that you'll just keep incrementally improving over time, but by and large, something gets worked on for a period, and then it's expected to go back on the shelf and keep doing its job for as long as possible. You're not making changes to all of the systems all of the time, and your developers are coming and going. So it makes sense to try and standardise a lot of choices. I see startups doing this a lot as well. GitHub's put out a bunch of blogs recently because they're quite open about their engineering. And one of the things is when they were 20 people, they had more technology in the mix than now when they're about 400. They've gone through and rationalised it down and said we need, more standardisation, less variation in how we're doing everything. Which is interesting for us because, the way we're doing it, the technology we're doing is different than what most of the clients have in their environments. And that's interesting to work out. If we keep doing that and keep having all these little seeds or special cases inside someone's environment, is it a good thing for them or not? It's a little bit too early to tell.
Yeah.
We're not planning on going anywhere. We're planning on growing the team and hopefully having this become a key thing that's always around. But we've actually been in the position where a customer had a key software actually written in Python many years back by someone external, and then a few years ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, they got Datacom to make some changes to it. Python is not a thing that Datacom has much in the way of capability of, and the developers that worked on it weren't with the company anymore. So this year, with some people firing emails around going, look, there's this thing the customer needs worked on, we promise we can help, who knows Python? And we went, well, we'll go and learn it. It's not that different from stuff we're already using. So in that case, we're able to support an application written in a language the company has zero capability in, and deliver all that. And that's worked well. That was a project that was on time and under budget, which I'm pretty pleased about.
That's the same.
Nice. Yeah.
Chalk that one up.
Especially with the left field, issues you had to deal with.
Yeah, well, it was sort of a go around the team who wants to volunteer to learning something new. And it meant I had to learn part of it as well. I hadn't done much work in Python before, nothing serious. At a large enough scale that would have been difficult, but for small things, the reality is we can always rewrite the entire system if we had to.
Yeah.
So because it's small, you're not committing so much resources. If, maybe being able to deliver something at half the price in a language that's not your corporate standard is a worthwhile trade-off versus the risk that 10 years down the track Datacom has no Rails capability and doesn't know how to support your application anymore. But all signs are that we're getting more and more work and needing more and more people. So hopefully it'll keep growing. I don't see this sort of technology of building small APIs and trying to use the right tool for the right job. That approach to IT I don't think is going anywhere.
It seems to have settled down as the approach for everybody else. So it's from a client's point of view that I'm going to use the word more modern approach, both from the approach and also the tools that you're using. Are you finding you're hitting a barrier against the one feel that we are a Microsoft shop, and if it doesn't fit into this one stack? Is that starting to change, break up? And that's a wide question. That's not just about your team.
It's a really wide question.
It is.
Given the size of our organisation and the customers we've got. It's the same answer that has been out there for decades. It's horses for courses. So if you have a customer that want to build everything on a Microsoft stack, then we'll support that. We have teams that do that. We happen to have customers that suit more the agile approach that fits in with the Rails technology. So we have agile solutions that need to be pushed out there really, really quickly. We've got one that's operating in Australia, which is a Rails application hooked into to an iOS iPad application, and that just is that's a smaller product. It needs to be pushed out there really quickly, and it just happens to suit Rails technology. So even though we didn't build that, we've got the capability to support that going forward. So so that will be something that our team will be looking after. And like Summer of Tech, it just makes sense. I mean, John and the Summer of Tech team are out there in that community, working with the Rails teams, and more and more with the .NET group and with the Java communities. But it's nice to be able to support that and show that we've got the capability to help them with their technology choice. So that, they chose Rails, and we're there to help them as well.
Fantastic. The Summer of Tech that obviously you guys are hooked into big time. Obviously you're hooked into big time to support them. Is that something that is within your team, or is that a whole Datacom stuff? Are there, it's too early to say for this year, but would there be from last year's students that would be anywhere within Datacom?
I think over the last 3 years we've taken on 6 developers. There'd be and a designer. So that's across a couple of business units within Datacom.
Cool.
We'd like to make it a little bit wider, and John and the Summer of Tech team have moved out to Auckland as well. So we'd like to see the Datacom group up in Auckland hook in with the Summer of Tech initiative up there as well.
Yeah.
But I've had 5 developers, and I'm just trying to remember. There's at least 3 Summer of Tech developers in our team at the moment, maybe 4, and one of them transferred up to Auckland, Datacom up there, and he's got a job up there too.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
It's good to hear.
And for those that, I suppose, say they're going through the process now, so it's a bit late for the ones that are doing it now. But for the ones that the students that are looking at next year, and even the ones that are looking to go into university at some point, then hopefully go through the Summer of Tech. What would your advice be, particularly from a technology bent or an approach, or what should they be thinking about now for the next year or 2 years, 3 years?
I'll answer first, and then Brad will tack on because I know he's got opinions too.
Cool.
Personally, I like it when they take an interest in the technology that they're learning. So for me, it's great that they go out to university and they're learning programming, but it'd be nice to know that they're doing it for a personal reason rather than I just need to get a job at the end of my 4 years or end of my 3 years.
Yeah.
So I need to know that they're quite passionate about it, and usually that shows when they've developed something of their own at home rather than just as part of the projects they do at university.
So it doesn't matter what technology, just be passionate about it and show me stuff that fantastic.
Yeah, and the other key thing that we're looking for is evidence that people know how to operate in a team, which is a lot easier to do now than it ever used to be. But it's things like doing projects up on GitHub, or not just hacking on something that's just you. Like, it's good to go out and build things, fully support that. But if I have a choice between 2 developers and I can see one's made contributions to some big existing open source project and has had to work with the core maintainers and has said, I want to add this feature, and done some negotiation and put some code up there, and then had it reviewed and tweaked and taken the feedback and gone and made changes and then gotten it in and gotten something accepted. That's quite a big learning curve. The very first time I tried to fix something I thought was broken in Rails, which itself is a rather huge project, it was really hard to work out how does this thing even work? How am I supposed to take the thing that I think is correct and actually get it in there? Or am I wrong? Am I misunderstanding it? There's a lot of surface area. And that being able to interact with a team and work with something that's existing and make changes to it is far more typical of what we actually need.
Yeah.
It's not very often we're starting from a blank page.
Yeah.
I did the same thing again recently, trying to add some tests just to show a particular feature in Docker could work, or how it would do something. And again, that's huge projects, just trying to get your head around even how to get it to build in the first place can be like an entire weekend spent trying to learn something. But showing that you can tackle that sort of learning cliff really depending on how big the project is. Some are easier than others, but then make valuable contributions. So if we get a CV, the first thing I'm looking for is, what's their handle on GitHub? What can I see of their public contributions? Do they know how to interact with the community or interact with another team? Do they know how to take feedback from someone who understands it better than they are and improve their result? And because if they're doing that sort of thing, it automatically shows they're passionate about the technology and are willing to do something, or about a project. I don't particularly care what the project is. I just want to see that they can understand how to do that, because you do get some brilliant programmers that can work off in a corner on their own and produce something. But that's not the skill set we need.
Yeah.
We need people that can be adaptable and can get thrown into something at short notice. Bill might get an email at 8:30 in the morning that says, "Oh, we need your team to look after this application that we've never seen before," and we've got usually a couple of hours to work out, can we even support it? What is it? And then who on the team is going to pick it up and start looking after it and be able to learn quickly from something that's already there. And you can't just sit there and complain about all the choices someone who'd come before had made, because everyone takes over something and goes, "Well, I would have done it differently."
I would have done that. Yeah.
But we're not going to rewrite everything we get. We're going to try and maintain it as effectively as possible.
We don't have the luxury of having prima donnas on the team, so they can't be wedded to one thing. I was only hired to do iOS, and that's all I'm ever going to do. We have to have people that are passionate in doing the development side of things and coming up with solutions, and they'll just get in there and do it regardless of what the project is. It's like Brad says, it could change from one morning to the next morning, and you'll be chopping from one thing to another, and we all know that developers hate doing that sort of thing, but context changing is something that we've become specialist in.
That's what customers want to hear too. They want to see that you can do this sort of stuff. Instead of going, "Oh, you're just a Microsoft shop," the perception. That's quite interesting, yeah. So you're adaptable. You want adaptable people in your team.
Yes, and be able to learn. We have people on the team that know how to teach, but people need to have that sort of intellectual curiosity, always be willing to learn, because the interesting thing is the people that are the best teachers and probably have the most knowledge are also the ones that are keenly aware of how much there is out there they don't know, and egos really don't have any place in it. It's technology. We're trying to build things. It's not really rocket science. One of the people I look up to has said quite a few times, most of what we're doing it's about designing information systems. It's not actually computer science. We're not rewriting compression algorithms or everything. We're getting information from a database up onto a screen so someone can use it to get a job done and then update something and move it along. It's just about flows of information going from one place to another. But we're trying to still deliver systems that people will enjoy using.
Yeah.
I quit enterprise development the first time because I got so sick of people building systems, or the people that were doing the design of how the system would work that wasn't really their niche. There was more, the customer has some area of business and this person's an expert in that business, so they understand the customer's processes, which is really useful. You need to have someone like that on the team, but this isn't necessarily the person you want designing all of your user interface well, and deciding which screen flows onto which other screen, and how does it work.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go off and learn how to do application design better, because I was looking at, here's the sort of systems we end up with in my day job, and then I go home and I use really nicely crafted systems by people who really care about it, and they're always trying to improve it, and the patterns of how it would work was quite different. So, I immersed myself in that. I tried to build something along the same lines, and, the feedback on the actual application we built was good. It was fast, it worked well, people could get the job done in as few interactions as possible. That sort of minimalist approach of how can we make it as simple as possible. And we've tried to carry that through, now that I'm at Datacom, into the systems we build now.
Brilliant.
So, we've built an application for actually managing room bookings, which is becoming quite popular. But one of the key things on that was, how can we simplify the amount of things you have to do in order to just get the job done. You've got a particular task. Can we make it, like, at one point I think it was like 4 clicks. Okay, how can we make it 3? Can we make it 2? How can we possibly, in this software becoming as minimalist as possible, there's this ongoing thing. You're seeing more and more refinements. You know, you've got people patenting like 1-click checkouts, which is useful. I use it on Amazon all the time in order to buy Kindle books. And just, you know, how can you annoy the user less, or how can you give them an experience? You know, this isn't, the applications aren't work of art. You know, it's still just a thing for someone to get their job done. Maybe it's just to, you know, go and send a document somewhere. But it's nice if you can do it in such a way that doesn't cause the user to want to choke you.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I heard once was to a developer, and this is a number of years ago when I used to work in big IT shops, was you're going to have to put your name on every screen. And the developer said, what? Why? The designer said, well, that's the person, they want to be able to get in touch with you when they have a problem. You could assign it. And that made them sit back and rethink about, okay, this is not just I'm doing something, I'm never using this system, I'm just going to chuck it over the wall and who cares. It's like, it's going to have my details on there, I'm going to sign it, in effect. And yes, they'll be able to come and see me. And it just changed their attitude. This is a particular team.
It's gone even further than that nowadays, because you now want to bring the users in to help you design the systems. You know, how are you actually going to do your job? Can we come up with a solution with you and get them to come in and join in the solutioning of the application?
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun that way as well.
Definitely. And that's that. I always said, if you design a system that you're never going to use, you've got to do something about that. You've got to think about how do you solve that problem. Otherwise, you don't care. You're never going to touch it.
That's tricky, because sometimes, you know, it's nice to be able to build systems that we actually use internally, and sometimes that works. But then sometimes we're doing something off the wall, like we did an application for one of the telcos that allows their people out in the field to send a text message which runs a whole bunch of tests through back-end systems and then gives them results. That's really not anything like what my job is.
That's
like.
right.
Like, I'm not out in the field doing this.
Yeah.
We have to try and put ourselves in the mindset of the person. But if people have got improvements to how that can be done, it's a little bit tricky for us to get them sometimes. And this is why we like working on a lot of the internal stuff, because we can be directly talking to the people. Like if we do something for an infrastructure team and there's a way to improve it, we can just talk to them.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, the mix of sort of internal versus client projects is interesting, because some of them are a bit more designed and a bit more rigid, and some of them we just come up with our best shot. Like nobody has a preconceived idea of what it is they want. They're just like, give us something to solve this problem.
Yeah.
We might be going entirely down the wrong direction. We may have to, you know, turn around and completely change something partway through, or break one application up into 2, or compress them back down into 1. Or all
Which comes to the lean, and you know, it's not in 3 years' time. That's the whole point, isn't it? It's, things have changed.
We embrace the pivot mentality.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point in just bulldozing your way through an application that you had right at the start. If it's not going to work, turn around and do something and change the application design or development so that it is going to work, and just keep on changing that. What's the saying about fail and fail often?
Fail fast.
And just
learn quickly.
Learn it.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, where can people out there who are listening to this find you? Get in touch with you if they've got any questions. The Twitters and the LinkedIn's and the stuff.
Well, Datacom's on Twitter. Datacom's got a Facebook page, as far as I'm aware, as well.
Wow.
The Twin Tower buildings opposite Frank Kitt's Park. You can look across. You can pop up and ask for me or Brad or anybody within the team. It's quite an open company. Anybody's quite happy to chat. You'll always find somebody. There's a lot of developers that are on Twitter, for example. They won't necessarily broadcast the fact that they work from Datacom, but for those that use Twitter, it's pretty obvious.
We have some senior managers on Twitter. It's quite hilarious to follow what they're actually saying. They're on the more provocative side of things.
Excellent.
The other thing that people can see, we've got accounts on GitHub, so if you go to github/Datacom, that's us, and I think it's got the public email on there is mine. Because we try and we build a lot of stuff that's either prototyping or forking someone else's library to use something, or just putting something else up. If it's not paid work for a client, it's frequently sitting up there as a public repository, because if we're just trying to reuse something or there's no like strategic IP or anything in it, then we don't tend to keep it private, because the public ones are free. So there's a bit of a presence there. All my team stuff is up there. You can get an idea of the sort of things we're actually working on based on the sort of things we've got forked or working on, or have written and put up there.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
That's great.
Well, thanks, Bill. Thanks, Brad.
Appreciate your
That was
time.
fantastic.
That's great, yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Well, that was a fascinating interview with Bill and Brad.
That's right.
And then I think we did that about 5 years ago, didn't we?
It seems like a while ago.
It took a while. I
Yes.
talked about it in the interview quite a lot about the belly of the beast, and I pulled myself up a few times saying that's unfair, just
Yeah.
because it's Datacom and it's a big IT shop. However,
They're
then
not
what
all-
happened?
Well, then they decided to censor themselves a little bit.
They censored themselves, and poor old Raji had to edit the interview multiple times.
Not twice, but thrice.
That's
a week.
right. It was quite
For a
funny.
few weeks.
So poor
all
old,
right, though,
poor old Bill and Brad. They were very embarrassed. But yeah, that we went through the red tape machinations, didn't we?
We did, yeah, true.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So we were in the belly of the beast, but it was interesting to see how they're trying to change it from inside. And I hope there are other organisations that have something similar. Actually, I know Telecom have something similar.
Yeah.
And they spawned it out now.
Just,
Spark.
Yeah.
You'll have to kill me before
I'm not
say
going to say it
Spark.
either. I just say it just in case people didn't realise who it was.
Oh yeah, because no one's
on the
going to know.
podcast thing.
Telecom. Righty ho.
Right.
Fascinating view. Thank you so much to Bill and Brad. Pop into Golding's free drive. This is the call to action. So what we're doing this Friday, Raj?
Oh, we're getting our drink on, aren't we?
We are getting our drink on. We're
Yeah.
having our Christmas
guests.
guests.
Yes.
So all of our interviewees have been invited to come and have a beer and meet each other. And I thought we'll sneak them out and say, if you pop into Golding's from about 5:30 onwards on Friday, this Friday, you might even get to be a what's the word? A groupie, an access
honorary
granted
attendee.
groupie. Pop along and say hi.
Come in and say you've got some sort of solution.
That's
Come on in, and I'm sure they'll welcome you.
Exactly. And there's some there's some very, very popular people coming as well. So that's my call to action.
That's great. And thanks for all the people commenting on our Twitters. We have our little, what do you call it, a little plug-in on our website now that has our
yeah.
Twitter stream going in for our Access Granted podcast is the hashtag. And people are on there saying, hey, get rid of that squeaky beat noise, that kind of stuff. So I'm taking it on board, as they say in the big leagues, and I'll go back to them with further options.
Oh, that's the big noise.
Yeah. That's that's part of hashtags. So. Yeah, but I understand that because I spent the weekend editing another corporate video and an animation, 8-bit animation, and I spent the whole weekend or Saturday just going beep beep, tweet tweet. So I've got plenty of those sounds for all those fans out there of annoying sounds. There's plenty more where that came from.
I don't think Dan's asking to put more in. I think he wants more out.
Oh,
So as always, don't take our very quick jibber jabber this week as gospel, as all the links go up on the podcast, as Raj has said, on #me.co.nz.
and on the Twitter, you can look for Mike at Miramar Mike and myself at NZ Raj, where you'll find all the daily hashtag Access Granted updates are on our website, of course. If you're desperate to email us, and I know some of you are, they've just upgraded from fax now, so they've got this email thing,
That's right.
You can go to accessgranted at #me.co.nz. And for all the other hashtag goodness, such as updates, newses, prizes, and much more, go to the #me.co.nz website.
So thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday with the Kiwi Tech News-ish discussions with those who make the computers do what they do. Ka kite anō.
#me.co.nz